Hello, my book buddies. Today we have with us Sreya Sarkar with her book Beneath the Veneer. Uh, as we move on to interview her today, we will be talking more about her book, more about who she is. So, just giving an introduction about the author here. Shreya Sarkar is a public policy analyst, journalist, and yes, an author. And she did her undergraduate studies in political science at Kolkata's Presidency College and post graduation from Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi. And after a short stint with the Times of India and as a college lecturer in Kolkata, she set off to US for her second master's in political science at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. So she also contributes to political and social articles for Indian and US news magazines like The Wire, Scroll, Karma India, and American Kahani. She writes columns on Indian American issues for The Quint and Dainik Bhaskar, and her short stories have been published in many Indian literary magazines, including Indian Ruminations, Indus Woman, Writing, and Space Inc. Shreya is a keen observer of Indian politics and speaks in political and social talk shows and seminars organized by universities and think tanks such as the Observer Research Foundation, Center for Adivasi Research and Development, and Ambedkar Center for Social and Cultural Studies. So we welcome Shreya Sarkar today with her book Beneath the Veneer. So Shreya, as I can see your, you know, uh, bio, it's very vast and very enriching. So moving on to my first question with you, how did this transition happen in terms of you writing articles on politics and social issues to writing a book, though we know that you are also a freelance writer, but written word is very different from the world of article writing or reporting social issues. So how did this transition happen in your life?
Hi, Divya. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction and thank you for your time. Good evening, everyone in India and in US. Good morning. Yes, thank you for the question. Uh, as you see from my background, I have been writing for a long time. And I think writing is like a continuous learning process in itself, you know. And it's true that I wrote research-based articles and I started fiction writing much later in my mid 30s. But my work as a policy analyst, it made me sift through data and details, but it also took me to people. I did a lot of surveys. I used to work for a food bank where I had to survey the clients. My work took me to individual stories when I did those surveys. And what I realized is that much as you can express and share stories and data and information, a wonderful way to connect with readers and your audience is through individual stories, which stayed with me. And it was fascinating to find out that when I made a presentation of the findings of surveys and dense research, what audience remembered are those individual stories that I threw in. So I realized the power of stories, human stories, and I think that was the first germ of my wanting to write fiction, because fiction is a format that allows you to write about individuals and what's happening in their lives, which makes it more relatable. And what's interesting is that once I started transitioning and writing, of course, most first time writers, they start with short stories. So I also started there. That was a different ball game. It was simpler. The plots were much more less complex. But it's when I got the courage to write a full length, I realized that you write stories and stories write you as well. So once I started a full length, I just let the characters speak and the story to take over. And that's the other part of my learning process. I realized that you might have a climax in mind, you might have characters and their outline in mind, but they take over. So that is how I transitioned, and my mind uh, had to adjust to that, because being a policy analyst, what happens is you try to control everything. It's a very controlled environment where you write your articles, and it has to be 800 words. Everything is very controlled and technical. But here, as your imagination takes over, as the creative part takes over, that's a different feeling for me, and I had to adjust to that. And once I did, I was fine. So I would still say I'm learning, and it's been a wonderful journey till now.
Yeah, we could see that very much here. So, since you mentioned about the climax, so how many times did you change the climax?
It's interesting because uh, the climax, the kind of book this is, the climax was very important. It depends on the kind of book you're writing, right? The genre. So this was more of a mystery thriller. That was the format. So I had thought about this climax at the very beginning. you know and then I started working on the backstories. But what's interesting is, once I started working on the backstories, certain details of the climax changed, but the crux remained the same. So I would say the climax was important for the book and for me, and that is where, so I started at the very end, and then I worked my way back.
Right. That's quite interesting. So, I also like the way you have named the place, Rangvihar. So, yeah. So, can you tell us a bit about Rangvihar itself, and how did you craft this fictional town, and uh, the contrasting layers of obviously the beauty of the town, and uh, I might not like to spoil it, but danger factor as well.
So, Rang Vihar, it takes after all the other vihars near Delhi, all these satellite towns. So, I would have to admit they are modeled after them. But of course, having said that, it is a fictitious town, but it represents the new satellite towns coming up outside the big metropolitan cities in India. And as the name suggests, it is rosy, it's supposed to be. It has all the qualities that Generation X and Y corporate workers look for. It's luxurious, it's modern, and it facilitates new beginnings and higher status as well as ambition. And it also advertises as being this safe place, a safe haven for its residents. But what's interesting is, to support this sleek citadel, there is this shanty town right next to it, you know, and which is very far, which is quite a contrast to what Rangvihar is or is supposed to be. It is very far from chic. There is poverty, there's squalor, and all that one wants to avoid to lead a good life. And also, there is this unique connection between the slums, the shanty town, and the high rise buildings. There is this codependency between these two establishments. It's this contrast and this codependency that creates a complexity, and sets the stage for the story to unfold. And I just thought, if you put a contrast, one can see that what is one supposed to be a place and what it is actually. And sometimes, uncovering these two layers can be very interesting. So that was the setup.
Yeah, true. So I also believe that whenever there is a city, obviously, which is a planned one, there's obviously is something which is an unplanned thing by the side. So yes,
Always.
maybe that's where the gap comes in between the, luxurious life and a life which, has more dreams. Anyways, moving forward. So your novel paints a very, chilled picture of an idyllic town, and there is a dark secret to it. So what inspired you to explore this theme? As I had suggested before, like, where you also said that, you know, that is what most of the people aim for right now, a planned city where, you know, there is luxury, all the amenities, given. So this theme of deception within a safe place, how did you, what inspired you to do this?
Yeah, I've been asked this question before. So the question came in a different format. They said that you live in New England, you're based there for many years. What led you to choose this dark town, new town in outside Delhi? I think there's a universal theme running through the story, through the book. See, I'm an immigrant. I came to US 21 years ago. And I understand how far people can go to secure what they think is a good life for themselves. So people strive towards security, I think, their entire lives. And yet, I have realized that safety as a concept, it remains like this elusive commodity for many, especially for women, because you might be thinking that you're going to a safe place, but some kind of danger might appear in some format which is unknown to you. So you have to always be guarded. So that's something I have learned, that most of us lead our lives in search of security, and which is universal in India and here and every continent. And I wanted to explore that theme in a more microscopic level. And then on top of that, I can see this young India, this aspiration of young Indians in Indian cities who are now exposed to internet, to media, and they know what's happening in the world. They have an idea of what they want from their lives. And in the gig economy, they are aspiring to get ahead while engaging in various kinds of short term hustles also. So, by hook or crook, they want to lead this good life. And that is where, that's the center of the story, that everybody is allowed to seek a good life, a safe life, a more luxurious life. But sometimes people don't have the skill set, and they end up doing a lot of side hustles, which might be legal or illegal, which might harm them. And they don't realize that. So it's a more universal theme than just one small town in Delhi. And that's what inspired me.
That's great. And since you talked about the safety for women, now we can see in your book that, uh, obviously the characters are mostly women, and each woman in the group is bringing her own perspective in place as a
Mhm,
backstory. So can you elaborate on the process of developing, these diverse characters? Because women developing a character and basically a woman and their
mhm,
experiences or their perspective, it's very different because you yourself are a woman and you are placing their backstories, I mean other women's
mhm,
backstories, right? So it's how was it difficult for you, or how did you develop these characters?
mhm. That's a very interesting question. I think what doesn't get talked about much in mainstream media as well as literature is that women love to talk. Women talk, women share, and women can be good friends. There's not enough emphasis on this basic fact. And Indian households are the best example of how diverse the woman network can be. It has this unique quality of going beyond class, the rural urban divide, and profession. Early in the morning, the maid will come, then the driver will come, the dudwala will come. So you are in touch with a different group of people, different strata of people. In a single day, you're in touch with so many different kind of layers of the society. Where else does this happen except in India? So all this was in my mind, because whenever I travel back from India, from US to India, I'm reminded how many people you talk to in a day. So that stayed with me. And I thought, what happens, this whole idea of what happens if a woman from six different backgrounds, or multiple backgrounds come together, and then something happens. That might be an interesting experiment. So in my mind, I wanted to bring them together and see what magic they can create. Now, some of the characters in the book, they have been inspired by the stories hitting newspaper headlines. And they're related to various kinds of indignities and inequities women face in our country. I think especially after Nirbhaya, when I saw the horrific incident and what happened as the aftermath, I was reminded that these incidents happen and then people forget about it, and then again there's a repeat incident. So what is it about these incidents that don't jar people or don't disturb people or don't stay with them? So I thought that maybe I should use some of these characters to remind people that over and above all the development and good things and increase in GDP, this is also a fundamental problem that we have been wrestling with for a long time and we have not been able to solve it. And the other characters, not all of them have come from headlines. The other characters, I have heard from my family or my friends, their struggle, their aspiration, and how they are trying to move forward. So, keeping in mind these two sources, I I shaped six different characters.
Yeah. So anyone who is very close to uh, any one character who's very close to you, or maybe in any form you have actually said
Mhm.
the truth about that particular character.
There is one character, I don't want to give away too much. There is a lawyer in this in these six women. There is one who's a lawyer, and it is actually through her eyes that readers get to know what's happening in the story. She's the one who uncovers the sinister happenings in the town. So I would say that character is based, if not totally taken, it is based on one of my school friends who is also a lawyer. She's very righteous, she's very blunt, she's very good at what she does, but sometimes because she's so righteous and blunt, she finds herself in these situations where people don't trust her because they think that she is always too right to be trusted. So there's a contrast, and there is a tension in her character, which I thought would be interesting to put in here, because here we do deal with the theme of morality and what happens if people are pushed, if the downtrodden or the weak, if they are provoked and pushed for too long, what does that make them? So because there's this theme of morality, I thought I would use the juices from her characteristic, and I hope it worked.
Yeah. So obviously you, whenever you have characters in mind, you always want to uh, have one which you are more close to, right? So I think that is with
That's true.
everyone who build every author who build a character uh, out for their book. So the story actually takes a sinister turn with some disappearances and deaths. So, did you have you had mentioned that you started with climax and then moved forward. So, was this
Mhm.
uh, uh, plotted beforehand itself that there will be deaths, there will be disappearance, or did the story actually unfolded, very organically during the process, during the
Yeah.
writing process?
Yeah, the climax of the story is the first thing I thought about, because the stories mentioned, the background stories, they will be very, if you go through it, they're quite relatable. Once you read, you'll know that, okay, yes, they're familiar stories. So we know these things happen in our society. So my idea was, let me see if these people go to a dark side. So that's why the climax. But as I said, the crux of the climax remain the same. But yeah, how many people would disappear? How many deaths would happen? That was dictated by how the different characters were shaped. The tactical part came together after I started writing the backstories, but I don't think much of the climax changed because that was the main hook of why, I mean, the question I tried to ask is what happened to this woman? So that remained the same. And I'm fortunate that my publisher, my agent, all of them, they thought it was shocking, but they thought it was necessary because it it brings everything together. So they didn't want me to change it. Otherwise, it would have taken me a longer time to again come up with something new. So that worked.
Right. So, six women. I don't know how you dealt with these women. Uh, with troubled pasts uh, from the core, right, in your story. So, what drew you to tell the story through a
Hmm.
collective female lens? I mean, it's very complicated to, you know, have, or I what should I say? It's very complicated situation when there is one woman. Now you have dealt with six women here. So how what were the challenges, and what actually thought, though we have discussed that you said that female safety is one of the major problems here, but what drew you to tell a story through a collective female lens?
Hmm. Hmm. Um, Personally, and that's just my opinion, I don't think enough gets written in this category. You know, yes, it was very challenging. As you mentioned very correctly, to just present the perspective of one woman. And here are six women from different backgrounds. What helped was thinking that if there is a crisis, suppose there's a crisis and everybody is inserted for a short time in that crisis situation, what would they do? So that helped my mission a bit. That since it was crisis driven, and I showed that these six women knew each other already, they were in touch with each other, they had a bonding with each other before the crisis happened. So that established the bond and the setting of the story, where there isn't, at least they're not like each other, but they know each other's mind. So that helped. And but having said that, it was challenging because, as I have mentioned before, I had to deal with the duality in women. There is once in on one side they are law abiding, they're considerate, they're polite, they're righteous, they want to do the right thing, they just want to lead a peaceful life. And then the other side, the more fierce side that we uncover later on, is what happens to them if they are continuously provoked. What can they become? And I see this more as a cautionary tale, and that's what helped my storytelling, that it can happen in any society. It doesn't matter what background women come from. If they are pushed, what they can become, and the responsibility lies with the society itself. That make sure you protect your woman, otherwise this can happen. Maybe it doesn't happen often, but it can happen, and then it's out of control. So I think that helped me, whip the story together and their different perspectives together.
True, it's actually, as you rightly said, not what do you say, not actually looked into uh, from a woman's perspective. And while we are at it, or
Mhm.
while we try to understand what it is, it has already happened. So yes,
Right.
that's
I
the
want to
yes.
mention here very
Yeah.
quickly, there are certain regional writers who did a very good job of representing woman voice, but they're much older, like
Mhm.
Ismat Chugtai, Amrita Pritam, then
Mhm.
later Anita Desai. They,
Correct.
I think, did a very honest job of bringing to the fore what women in trouble, what they do. But what I don't see now, what I see, what's missing is there's a lot of talk of mythology, what Sita did, what Draupadi did. And this is, I don't mean bad to any of these. That's a different genre, I believe. And then there is this very sweet and soft, what's happening in the kitchen, everything is very rosy. But there are everyday challenges. Where are the contemporary stories? I don't find enough of that. That's why I pulled at Gillian Flynn, I pulled at Liane Moriarty, which, foreign authors. And I wish with time, this storytelling comes, that what are the different problems now we are facing and how are women looking at them?
Actually, as you rightly said, even a little bit of a small thing which we do in the morning can trigger you to actually uh, I don't know, maybe if I take my example, I go by the schedule in the morning. So it's like, oh, if I am late by 5 minutes, I get excited. Oh my God, I'm going to be late. So, these are the small things which no one wants to understand, is what I believe.
Yeah.
But yes, it's actually something which people need to consider going forward. So, Beneath the Veneer offers a glimpse into the dark and underbelly of seemingly a perfect town, which is, as you rightly said, Rangvihar. So, do you plan to explore similar themes of deception in future works as well? And also, since we are talking about women, would maybe not the same theme, but something different about women.
Thank you for this question. It's a hard question to answer because I'm still planning on what to write, and I've started writing a few things. I believe that I have a strong caustic side, in me, and I'm drawn to injustices in every setup. I'm a critical person who's disturbed by injustices, by inequality. So my general instinct always leads me to point out and discuss imperfections, and I think that will continue in some form in future. But yes, I mean, there are many women, as you just mentioned, woman anxiety is something that's like a treasure trove that has not even been touched. You can write so much on that. That is there in my plan. But right now, I also want to explore topics which are even more difficult and more global. uh, I have plans of looking at global warming, climate change. Again, such a huge, humongous, monstrous topic. But what does it look like when you bring it down to a microscopic individual level? How does it affect individuals, say, in a third world country, which is flooding and they're losing their land and homes? So will that have women in them? Definitely. But this time I also want to bring in a man's perspective, how he's struggling in this economy and how things are changing so fast after the pandemic. But I think you're right. I would always have this, I would love to bring certain illumination of the dark side so that people, they get something new to think about, to introspect on. I don't think my writing is supposed to be just something that you read and forget. It has to trouble you. So I'm going to maintain doing that.
That's great. So, uh, one quick question on um, so since you are a political science, well, your background is mainly into political science. So, uh, do you also like research on those lines, because you have that background? So, is it easy for you to crack these themes up? Probably not much of research, but you already know about these things. So, how do you go about it? I'm sure that your background always helps you in, as you worked as a journalist, you worked as a reporter. So I think they get into the deepest of things, and they do. So I think did this help you in this case as well in writing this book?
No, definitely. It helped me a lot because I could see things the way lay eyes cannot sometimes get into. But sometimes it has also been an obstruction because I have a tendency, because of my training, to go into the details and into the nitty-gritties too much. So I had to uh, be watchful of that tendency because I had to remind. That's why the learning process is still, it's an ongoing process, right? I had to tell myself that this is a personal story. Don't toss in too many details. Just keep it free flowing and let people figure out if they want to dig into the research. But what I would like to add here is, because I like doing research, when I write a new book, when I wrote this book, I found out so many new things about Delhi, you know, which was fascinating. I lived in Delhi for 5 years when I was a child, and then I went back for my master's. So I have seen Delhi through the eyes of a child and a young adult. So I remembered a lot of things, and that gives me a lot of joy. And that's the thing about writing and researching. If you don't enjoy researching, I don't think you will enjoy writing, because there is so much of background work you have to do. And that background work is basically research. So that gave me a lot of joy. And also for the new book, the new project that I'm planning on climate change, again, I'm learning a lot of new things, Divya, which is giving me a lot of joy. So research and writing a full length definitely goes hand in hand, and it helps if you have a background in it and if you enjoy it.
Truly, truly, and uh, I am a Delhiite to the core. I did my studies there. I did my graduation there. So I'm thoroughly a Delhiite. And though you can say I would not have probably explored each and every part of Delhi, but I just it's I don't know, the city just gives me a different vibe. I don't know. Uh,
There's something about the city, right?
yes. There is, I mean, I don't know what it is. It's magical. I don't know why, with all the safety issues, with all the other
Yeah.
bad things coming up about it, I still am drawn to that city. I don't know why, but it is. So we will quickly have a fun filling rapid fire round here. So for you, safe heaven or hunting ground, in the sense that one word to describe Rangvihar's true nature.
Hunting ground, definitely.
Okay. Girl gang goals, friendship or self-preservation. What initially brings the women together?
I think friendship. You are
Anytime.
drawn to a person.
Yes,
Yeah, you are
anytime.
drawn to a person just for the sake of it, right? Not for any other goal.
Missing piece, biggest challenge in crafting a plot based on human trafficking.
Sorry, I didn't get this question. Can you
I
repeat?
said, what was the missing piece? Like, what was the biggest
Oh, okay.
challenge in crafting the human trafficking plot?
Uh, I wanted to make it fresh. So much has been written on it. So I was continuously trying to find this missing piece of how to keep it fresh and not make it cliche.
Red herring you enjoyed most fooling readers with.
Uh, I think my readers are all kinds. I will leave it up to them what they want to get out of it. As long as they react, good or bad, I'm happy. My job is done.
Okay, Secrets Unbound, most surprising revelation about a character that emerged during writing.
I think Rani, there was this athlete, this woman athlete in wheelchairs. She found out the strength and did a lot for her friends without realizing what she has become. So that was a revelation. Now, that is one part that I had not thought I'm going to use.
Okay.
Biggest magic of writing, right?
Right, right. Of course, I truly get it. Happy ever after. So for you, do any woman find the peace they were searching for in Rangvihar? Did they find it?
I have a thing for happy ever after. I'm hopeful, and despite I'm me being caustic and critical, I think, as I said in one of the answers, people do strive for safety and happiness and better life. So people should continue that. Always happy ever after. Yeah.
Great, and that was really fun having you here with the rapid fire round. And do you have the book handy so we can
I
just
do. I
yeah,
do.
right.
There.
Yeah, so I want you to keep it like in front. Yeah, because if you put it in the
Oh,
background, it
okay. Oh,
doesn't come.
right, 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 right. I
Yes,
understand.
right.
Is it visible?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
And so that's
Yeah.
Beneath the Veneer by Sreya Sarkar. And it was wonderful having you here today, Shreya. And it was a lovely conversation. I learned a lot. Uh, as an author, I truly connect with the research part, with the woman, though I have not explored this theme yet, but I am in my writing journey too. And it is actually good to learn from all the authors, As you stated, Amrita Preetham and a few more. We have Manju Kapoor also, who
Yes,
truly,
I forgot to mention her. Yeah.
yeah, truly builds the characters so wonderfully. So, thank you so much for the inspiration, and I think I have got enough today. Whole lot of knowledge, whole lot of learning. Thank you so much for this evening. Anything you want to say ahead?
Thank you, Divya. Thank you for giving me a Sunday evening. It was wonderful talking to you, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope to see what you write. I would look for your book. So,
Surely, surely,
we
I
should
will.
start. We should start.
Yeah, I will
And thank
surely.
you for this platform. I think it's important to talk about your journey because there are so many writers in the same place struggling and grappling with issues that they think only they are grappling with. So we are a community and we should know about it. So thank you for
Surely.
giving
So
me this
for
platform.
me, it's a transition from being a poet to to a fictional writer. So it's, yes, it is challenging because we are very mad people. Poets are mad. So, right, right. Thank you so much again, Shreya,
Thank
to
you.
be here with Between the Pages with Divya. Thank you so much and have a wonderful Sunday ahead.
You too. Thank you.